Good morning, folks. This is Mr. Dan coming to you from the Landscape Design Classroom, and today we're going to talk about managing forest pests and diseases. So our main idea here, how important is pest control in my forest management plan? If you take a look at the picture at the tree here that's been getting eaten away, you can see that it's been attacked by the emerald ash borer. These are pretty terrible. They've actually ravaged pretty much the entire ash tree population in the United States at this point. So let's move into it. So many kinds of diseases can infect and damage forest trees. Know and understand the pests and the damage they can do. Set of overall forest management goals and objectives such as timber production, wildlife, hunting, increased land values, and personal recreational use. Making pest control decisions. Make management decisions based on goals. Make pest control decisions based on those management goals. So there are a lot of different pests out there that can affect your woodland. So all of your decisions going into your plan on what you want to do with your areas in woodland definitely will have a factor on your pest, on how to deal with pests within those areas. So integrated pest management plan. This is something we go over quite a bit here in class because you'll need one for pretty much any type of business, especially if you're working for the outdoors, but you can still have one for the inside as well. So an IPM is a process of evaluating objectives and the condition of your forest to select pest management strategies. A IPM requires knowing your forest, knowing which insects and diseases may harm your trees. So your threshold levels defined are the maximum amount of damage you will accept before using pest control measures. 5 factors here to consider: ownership objectives, type of pest and its potential damage, value and condition of your stand, cost of pest damage versus cost of pest control, and environmental impact of pest damage and pest control. So deciding when to act: damage below the threshold level, no control is needed. Damage above the threshold level, you need to consider possible pest control alternatives. So know your pest risk. Is it impossible to know all? It is impossible to know all forest insect and disease pests. So concentrate on the pests commonly found in your area and understand the pests most likely to cause serious damage. Just like around here with the emerald ash borer, we now have sprays for that, but they're pretty invasive. So wouldn't be surprised if that entire population is taken out. So some good sources of pest information: USDA Forest Service, State University Forestry and Entomology departments. That would be Penn State University or Penn State Extension here in Pennsylvania. And then State Department or Natural Resources or Division of Forestry. So the USDA offers some great stuff, like I just said, with Penn State Extension. So purpose of monitoring: the pest situation is constantly changing. Insect and disease problems occur in cycles. Weather conditions may trigger some problems, and new and exotic pests may appear. So when we're watching for these pests or insect pests, insects play an important role in forests, culling weak and inferior trees, breaking down and recycling litter, food for birds and wildlife. And then some insects are a serious threat to healthy trees. Some pests are regional to certain areas, and some pests are widely distributed. So let's take a look at some examples here. We have the the pine mountain beetle larvae that go into various pines. The forest tent caterpillar causing damage through defoliation. They eat up all the leaves. The gypsy moth, which eats up all the leaves, and if a tree doesn't have leaves in the growing times of the year, it will die off. Then the emerald ash borer, which just decimates ash trees. It'll attack some other types too, but typically they'd like to stay in the ashes. So some other examples: southern pine beetle harming pine trees, and pine tip moth reducing timber value. So disease pathogens of concern: you have fungi and bacteria, which are the most common, virus and other organisms. Stress factors increasing infection risk, soil compaction, or they will increase infection risk through soil compaction, physical damage to part of the tree, and presence of a disease organism. So here's some disease examples. Fusiform rust is shown on the trunk of lower bulls. White pine blister, rust cankers can be either depressed or swollen with a definite color contrast. Disease examples in pine trees: pitch canter shoot dieback on right tree caused by pitch canker fungus. So that would be the right tree right here. And annuus root rot. That's typically caused by a little bit too much moisture. And if you start seeing a lot of mushrooms around the bottom of a tree, you might want to try to clear that out a little bit to let that tree breathe and dry up a little bit. But more examples: brown spot disease, severe needle cast. You'll start seeing the tree develop brown from the bottom up. Eventually, once it gets to the top, it'll be totally dead. Then little leaf disease, thin tufted and off-color crown, and dying branches. So some examples in the hardwoods. This is shows a tan oak with symptoms of sudden death oak or oak death. And then you can see a little broader picture of that whenever oaks are starting to be killed off as out in California. So you see all these oaks just being killed off with that brown leaf. So, some other examples: beech bark disease, damaged bark, and oak wilt disease, symptoms on red oak leaves. So you'll see like up here at the top, browning from the top down. And once it reaches the bottom, that leaf will be completely dead, and it will affect the tree because it won't be able to take in sunlight. So how pests are controlled: good cultural practices, the most effective and least effective, expensive control, early detection and diagnosis to stop the pest before it does more damage, prevent the spread to additional trees, decide when to use control measures. We also want to look at type of insect, type of forest, and severity of infestation, along with potential impact on wildlife and environment, and an integrated pest management approach, including both long and short-term management practices. So some long-term practices: choosing the species most likely to succeed, timing planning to avoid pests, avoiding pest-susceptible diseases, following best management practices for planting density, and thinning for a healthy stocking level. So if you have emerald ash borers, you definitely don't want to plant an ash tree. Some short-term alternatives: doing nothing, mechanical control by physically removing the pest, biological control using parasites, predators, and disease, and chemical pesticides as a last resort. So as you see here in the picture on the right, you can see that this tree has been treated for emerald ash borer, and it's typically wrapped in a caution tape just to let you know that's happened so you don't touch the tree. Our bottom line here: decisions on when and how to control insects or diseases in a forest will depend on your goals and objectives. Weigh potential damage against cost of using control measures, and focus on using good cultural practices to promote healthy growth. So I can't stress enough here, having a pest management plan depending on the land you own, the business you own, who you're working for, and if you are doing your own pesticide treatments, please promote the companies or people you're working for to have a plan in motion just in case they start running across some of these. So that is the end of my presentation, but if you have any questions at all, you can call me down here in the landscape design classroom. I appreciate your time, and have a great day, folks.